Welcome to the Situation Report today. Glad to have you joining us. This is the show where we do our very best 3 times a week to give you the information and perspectives you need to navigate an ever-changing culture. My name is Jeremy Stalnecker here with Chad Robichaux, and we are going to talk about an ever-changing culture today. It's in your face. You can't get away from it. Chad, it's Pride Month, and so we're going to talk about pride.
I was just walking through the mall and literally I felt like I was in Skittles commercials because there was rainbows and colors everywhere. Kids stores everywhere is participating in this Pride Month, and it's nothing I've ever seen before in my lifetime. Certainly, there's so many segments of our demographic in America. America is comprised of so many different people, different people that come from different countries and ethnical backgrounds and this different type of demographics throughout our country, but who gets a month? Whole month.
Well, what's really interesting about all of this to me, and this is just kind of where we're living now. I think with a lot of things, is we talk about equality and even equity. We talk about inclusion, all these things, and then in order to enforce inclusion, we start excluding people. So we start segmenting people out. So now we have, in order to show how inclusive we are, we're going to set aside this month for people who are different than other people. And it's crazy.
It has the opposite effect.
The opposite effect, yeah. It separates, doesn't include.
It really does. And I think we're seeing it right now. I think the push for this year has the response has been the opposite way. I mean, I never really batted an eye at a Pride Day or anything like that, but this push has been so deliberate and so intentional, and it's so targeted towards certain segments that I believe it shouldn't be targeted to specifically. And I know we'll talk about it as children that it's gotten pushback. And it's had the opposite effect that I think was intended for.
It's a crazy thing, and I think it's important for us to pause, and that's why we're doing the show, obviously, to pause and kind of break this down, because I think that we're living at a time where people have different opinions and different views, but everyone has been so beaten by the media into submission that even though we may have a different opinion, we're going to keep it to ourselves. So it feels like everyone in the world agrees with this. Everyone in the world thinks this is a good thing, right? And that's not true, first of all. And second, it's largely because we've been told that we have to go along with this idea or else we're bigoted somehow or something. And so we're not able to speak share our opinions. And we have to have a space where we can talk about this in a rational, clear, calm way.
Yeah, you should be able to talk about it. You shouldn't have repercussions for talking about it, first of all, because it's America. Shows like this one should be able to talk about this topic. And look, I will be just upfront and frank. I even as a Christian, as an American, to me, people have the right to be gay. People have the right to do whatever they want. I know maybe you and I have disagreed before. People, if some dude wants to marry some other dude, in America, you have the freedom to do that. You don't have to believe what I believe. So that's where I stand on that. What I don't believe is that it should be pushed on other people, that you should have to make me believe your beliefs. You should be able to come into a church that doesn't believe in gay marriage and be forced to then marry you in that church. That's where I have a problem, and a lot of people have a problem. And I think so much to the point that with this LGBTQ plus thing, that the gay community, and I know people in the gay community that don't want to be associated with this group because they feel like it's harmful to the gay community. Because it's been pushed so hard, and they're actively grooming children and these things. So there's a lot of gay people that don't want to be part of this either. And so there's a lot of disagreement, not just amongst people of faith and people from the gay community and the homosexual community, but the whole conglomerate of LGBTQ plus, all the things. They aren't on the same page with this. And so you got a month now dedicated to a group of people that are segmented. They don't agree with the same thing.
And I agree that, as Americans, and again, I have very strong a very strong position on a lot of issues based on a biblical worldview, and I try to derive my personal opinions and positions on things from what I believe the Bible says. But what I do believe fundamentally is that as an American, I have the right to live my life according to the Bible, and you can call it whatever you want to. You can say believing in God is believing in, the fairy in the sky or whatever. You can believe whatever you want to about what I believe, but I have the right as an American to believe that and to raise my family in accordance with that. But you also have the right to reject it and to live your life however you want to live it, as long as one does not impose their worldview on the other. We have the right to coexist. We have the right to run side by side, but we don't have the right to impose what we believe on other people. And I think that's, really in so many ways what it is to be American. And I believe that that's why these issues are being pushed on us, because it's really intended not to unite us, but to divide us. I don't know when this has ever been an issue, but it's an issue now because we're being told it is.
It is. And I mean, it's again, America, I said this in the opening, America is divided into so many demographics of people from different religious beliefs and race and all these different things. But I mean, to give one group of people a whole month that's dedicated to honoring them is a divisive thing. And the reason it's divisive is because by the way, we should know it's a small group. It's a group that would say that conservatively say it's probably more 2%.
Right.
Some will say it's like 5 to 6%.
Yeah.
But I believe it's probably like 2% of people would identify in that LGBTQ plus genre. And then if you talk about the trans, which has been the biggest push, you're talking about not even a fraction.
Right. Right.
You had told me the numbers. It's like a 0.0.
Yeah. It's a very, very small percent. Statistically, it's not zero, but statistically, it doesn't register.
Right. So I mean, like to give a whole month of that, like what about a month for Jews? What about a month for Muslims? What about a month for Christians? What about a month for heterosexual people? Heck, I love,
they're under attack.
Can we celebrate that? What about the fact that we, as a nation, have made Memorial Day and Veterans Day a blip on the radar?
Yeah.
Do you see this kind of response from Memorial Day and Veterans Day to where a whole month, every store, every company is being peer pressured into flying those flags? It's just we don't see it.
Or something as simple as, and this is important to you and I, post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress disorder.
That's this month.
That is this month. So this month has been
PTSD Awareness Month.
Designated as PTSD awareness. And yet, if it wasn't for organizations like ours, we work with a veterans organization, if we didn't talk about it, no one's talking about it. And yet mental health is something people are screaming about all the time. Anyhow, we know that, but where is that? And so much of it is just posturing. It doesn't actually reflect what people believe. We see companies changing their logos. We see so many of these very public displays of support for a community, and yet privately, that's not the case. There's an article here, I'll read some of it from USA Today. The title is "Hiding Behind Rainbow Flags." These companies' political donations don't match their support of LGBTQ issues. I'll just read a few parts of this. In a year when record number of anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced in state houses and Congress remains stalled at the Federal Equality Act, the eyes of the public, employees, and the LGBTQ community will focus more acutely than ever on how corporations celebrate Pride Month in 2022. Gone are the days of rainbow washing corporate social media accounts in June and selling a few rainbow retail items without backing up those displays with real action, advocates said. It's so amazing to see more and more brands celebrating Pride Month every year, but it must be done with authenticity, said Sarah Kate Ellis, president and CEO of GLAAD. And they go on. But this article continues, while companies are feeling increased pressure to publicly demonstrate their commitment to diversity and inclusion, they also fear becoming the next Disney, being retaliated against by politicians if they speak out too much against specific anti-LGBTQ legislation. Many end up sending mixed messages declaring their commitment to that community, especially during June, but donating money to politicians who actively oppose gay rights, trans medical care, and more. And I could go on. This article obviously is in favor of this month and in favor of this community, and is bemoaning the fact that these companies aren't doing more.
Many of these companies, I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I was going to say, but what we see are these companies playing both sides. And so when you look at what they're doing, you have to ask the question, are they doing it because they genuinely care or because they need to or feel that they need to? A point was made in another article that I read a couple days ago that these same companies, you could look at Nike, some of the big companies, although they'll do this here in the United States where this battle largely has been won for equality, they will not do it in countries where this type of what we would call equality are against the law. So it's very disingenuous, it's extremely false, and yet this is what we're dealing with every single day, at least in June, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going. It's like, it is crazy that they pick America to pick this fight, and they we will get demonized for the show, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
We hate gay people, which, for the record, I don't hate gay people.
Right.
Just for doing this show, but they'll pick the fight here in America, which is the freest place in the world to be gay, and to be part of that LGBTQ community. But they won't pick that fight in countries where they literally kill people for being gay.
Right.
And they'll still do business with those countries and in those countries and never will speak up. So it's very disingenuous. I think advocacy for LGBT should be done in areas that they're killing and persecuting people for their sexual choices, whether it be gay or LGBT. I don't believe anybody should be persecuted or killed for their sexual choices. I'm happy that America is a place that they can be free to make those choices, even though I personally don't agree with the lifestyle. I believe they should be able to be free to do that. But the fact that it's overlooked and so disingenuous, and the fact that they will champion it in America but not champion it and stand up for it in places that it's real persecution, and we see this in almost so many areas of life where it's just so disingenuous, their arguments.
I'm not sure if you've been to the men's department lately, but men are being held hostage by overpriced brands that simply aren't mission tested. That's why we're excited to tell you about Undertac, the only brand that's literally been battle tested by special forces. These have to be the greatest boxers ever made because they cover all the bases. High quality material that's antibacterial, anti-pilling, and moisture wicking so you stay fresh and dry all day. A quick release fly and a secret pocket in the extra wide waistband for cash or tactical necessities. Undertac is durable, ultralight, fade resistant, and shrink resistant. And here's the best part, they're almost 30% less than the competition. Go to getundertac.com. That's getundertac.com right now. Save 20% off your order with the offer code SITREP20. All one word, SITREP20. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. This is a great American company that's unapologetically pro-America, pro-Second Amendment, and pro-military. That's getundertac.com. Getundertac.com. Offer code SITREP20.
It's been really interesting to me to see these companies, and I keep asking myself the question, with such a small percentage of people that actually fall within that designation, what's the motivation? Because the companies, you'd think, these corporations, they exist to sell products, whatever those products are. Why would they do that? And the only thing I can come up with is just it's social pressure. It's the same thing that prevents people from standing up and saying, I don't agree with that.
It's social pressure that the truth is no one can identify where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And no one will be the take the position of who's pushing this social pressure down, but everyone has buckled to it. Churches have buckled to it.
Yeah.
The United States military has buckled to it.
Yeah.
But no one will say where it's. I mean, in the United States Marine Corps, putting females who say they are male in platoons to go through training with with young men who hadn't even had sex changes yet. that pressure comes from somewhere, but no one can put a finger on where that pressure comes from. They just know they have to concede to it. And it's really hurting our military. It's hurting our combat readiness. And we've just seen a report come out this week that it's hurt the recruiting.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps, who I love. Obviously, I love the Marine Corps. And they did this. They tried to jump in this bandwagon. They took this iconic Marine Corps picture of a helmet and that had bullets in the helmet and made those bullets rainbow. And they took a backlash for it. And
I have an article here actually from the Washington Stand. It's called "Military Recruitment Tanks as Pride Mission Backfires." The author is Suzanne Bowdy, who I don't know, but she writes on this, and I'll jump into the middle of it. She said in the last week, the uproar over the post, that is what you were just referring to, that social media post, has become the real story as the Corps and Pentagon take flack from all directions. The Military Times dedicated an entire column to the controversy, saying the Marines missed the mark. As an aside, I've never been a big fan of the Military Times. I've always thought they're kind of a left-leaning paper.
I was surprised they jumped in this too, and they criticized the Marine Corps.
It's pretty crazy that they would, and when they do, you better listen because there's something wrong. They went on. This is the Military Times. Unfortunately, the graphic and message did not seem to resonate for many commentators on Twitter and Instagram. Sarah Sicard observed, outrage is still pouring in from veterans and other military families who are tired of their service being used as a pack mule for the far left's agenda. Quit being woke, ranted one. And this is a great statement. All Marines are green, another fired back. No colors, no preferences, no special treatment or celebration of any subgroup or category. Just Marines. Leave it at that. Keep social experiment, trendy buzzwords, and politics out of it. Former Fox News producer Kyle Becker was just as pointed, reminding everyone the culture wars are not one the Marines were formed to fight. You represent all Americans and not just woke socialists, weaponizing sexual orientation to attack traditional nuclear family and Christian values. Tolerate, yes. Champion aside in the cultural debate, not your mission. And this is crazy. Now, I mean, we could argue, and maybe, I don't know, maybe we should at some point, the value of the don't ask, don't tell policy of the Clinton era in the military. And this was kind of a middle ground, right? You can be whatever you want to, but just don't make that an issue. That shouldn't be an issue. And if it becomes one, then you're going to end up out of the military. But
honestly, it was a great policy, from my opinion. I didn't agree with the fact that if you were gay, you had to hide it. But look, I mean, I think any Marine, especially Marine Corps leaders, would agree with me on this. None of this matters in the Marine Corps. Like, if you have a gay Marine that can do his job and he's stellar, like, I'll take him over some turd that's can't do his job well. I mean, no one in the Marine Corps cares about this. They're making everyone care about this. We care about you being a good Marine and be able to do your job. That's what we care about in the Marine Corps. Where it does become a problem, and I will say I'll go further, outside of just a gay lifestyle, when you start changing genders and trying to enforce that into combat units, then that becomes a problem. But I mean, I've been around the Marine Corps a long time. Maybe I'm blind or naive or something like that, but I just never seen Marines care about stuff like this. Care about you being a good Marine and doing your job.
yeah, Marines do a lot of crazy stuff that I would be morally against, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
But
it's kind of unfortunately hallmarks of being a Marine.
And some of it's a lot worse than some of these things we're talking about. But when you get out to the places that it actually matters, that's where you want to see if they can perform. And combat readiness should be the hallmark of the military. And I think the Marine Corps has long kind of held that line when the other branches of the military, by and large, have gone more, culturally respondent. They've become, that phrase woke, I don't love the phrase, but the Marine Corps has held the line. And in the last year, particularly with the COVID stuff, which I'm sure is a big part of why recruitment is struggling so much, but that, and then you look at things like this. Why in the world would a young man who aspires to do something manly, aspires to do something masculine, aspires to do something important, why in the world would they join an organization that is going to require you to get a shot that is at best controversial? They're going to require you to do things and sit through then these programs, I don't know what else to call them, programs of sexual indoctrination and orientation, when really what you want to do is test yourself, put yourself in an organization that pushes you, and deal with, combat America's enemies.
Go kill our nation's enemies.
Right.
I mean, that's what they want to do. I mean, when you're young and you join the Marine Corps, you want to, if there's bad guys around the world that are threatening freedom and threatening innocent life around the world, you want to go kill bad guys. You don't want to sit in a class to learn how to be culturally sensitive to people that are changing their gender and stuff like that. But that's what they're being forced to do. And it's taken it takes precedence. It has taken precedence over training. And I believe a lot of this stuff has become a threat to national security, because when you start putting some of these agendas ahead of readiness, then it is a threat to national security. Yep. And it may sound extreme, but it just really is. I mean, the job and purpose of the United States military is to protect our nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that's what they sign up to do. And that's what they want to do when they join. And I don't think any of them care about someone's sexual preference as long as they can do their job well.
You mentioned that everyone is being pressured, but no one knows where the pressure is coming from, and we can't put our finger on who this person is or who this group is, but there is a group of people that have an agenda, and I think the agenda, if we're not careful, can be overlooked, but it shouldn't be overlooked. The agenda of the group of people that are pushing this, whoever those people are, clearly is to indoctrinate our children, and whether their larger agenda is to undermine our society, undermine cultural, American values, undermine the church, whatever it is, their agenda is to get to our kids. And when we celebrate sexual orientation without the ability to think clearly on what that means and why that's important, and things that most adults can't process, let alone children, we're doing damage to our kids. Again, here are some statistics. Gender ideology harms children. This is an organization, or this is an article from, let me pull it up here, from the American College of Pediatrics. Okay, so they're hardly a conservative, right-wing hack organization. Here's what the American of Pediatrics, I'm not good at reading. The American College of Pediatrics, here's what they say. Human sexuality is an objective biological binary trait. XY and XX are genetic markers of male and female respectively, not genetic markers of a disorder. Okay, so here's what they're saying. There are men and there are women, and yet they go on. Number 2, no one is born with a gender, and this is where it becomes so confusing, right? Everyone is born with a biological sex. Gender, an awareness and sense of one's self as male or female, is a sociological and psychological concept, not an objective biological one. So they're saying that we can be whatever we want to be. Now, if this isn't confusing to a child, now these are the people who speak to children. Okay, number 3. I can go on. Number 3. A person's belief that he or she is something they are not is, at best, a sign of confused thinking. So on one hand, we're being told you can be whatever you want to. On the other hand, we're being told if you are believing you are something that you're not, then you're confused. According to DSM-5, as many as 98% of gender-confused boys and 88% of gender-confused girls eventually accept their biological sex after naturally passing through puberty. So check that out, right? Don't miss that. 98% of gender-confused boys, 88% of gender-confused girls eventually accept their biological sex after naturally passing through puberty. So we're telling
you say that one more time? I think everyone needs to hear that one more time. We had an amazing guest on here, Mr. Walt,
Walt Heyer, Walt Heyer. Yeah. So 98% of gender confused boys and 88% of gender confused girls accept their biological sex after naturally passing through puberty. Why is that significant? Well, because we are now giving hormone blockers and gender reassignment surgeries to very small children, and then reinforcing what we want them to be, I think typically is what it comes down to. And I say we very generally, what parents want that to be. So small children being confused about their gender identity does not mean they're going to end up accepting that. It means they're confused because they're kids. And I have a rule of thumb, kids are dumb. So kids are kids. They're trying to figure this out. Most of them will come to the conclusion that they are what they're supposed to be. Here's number 6. pubertal children diagnosed with gender dysphoria may be given puberty blockers as young as 11 and will require cross-sex hormones in later adolescence to continue impersonating the opposite sex. These children will never be able to conceive any genetically related children, even via artificial reproductive technology. In addition, cross-sex hormones, testosterone and estrogen, are associated with dangerous health risks, including but not limited to cardiac arrest, and it gives some others. Number 7, rates of suicide are nearly 20 times greater among adults who use cross-sex hormones and undergo sex reassignment surgery, even in Sweden, which is among the most LGBTQ affirming countries. Conditioning children into believing a lifetime of chemical and surgical impersonation of the opposite sex is normal and healthful is child abuse. That is a commentary on these things in the article. And we could go on, but the larger agenda right now seems to be to get to our kids. This month has been crazy. We've seen these drag queen, not only story hours, which is how it all started, but shows, kids going to strip clubs where they're performing for people who are giving them money as though they were stripping for them. This is absolutely insane, and it's an indoctrination or an attempted indoctrination of our kids. And why we can't see that or understand the connection between the two absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're saying earlier, it's strategic. It has a target. One of the things I think we were talking about is you don't know where it comes from, right? You don't know where the pressure is coming from, but I think, ultimately we know the origin of it, and that's from, this is a spiritual attack.
Right.
You and I, both Christians, we know this is spiritual.
Right.
We know that Satan is pushes these things to divide people, to harm people, to attack, beautiful, sweet children that are innocent and influenceable, that are being ultimately the most harmed by this.
Yeah.
And I also think, as the enemy does this, there's a sinister group of people in the world that hate America. They hate freedom and everything America stands for. And for the last 80 years, since World War II, they've been trying to destroy America and infiltrate America through bringing division amongst people. They're bringing communism and socialism in America. And again, you can't put your finger on who it is, but what it is, I can put my finger on, and that's what it is. All this stuff you've seen in the last few years with the Black Lives Matter thing, which is a communist movement, and the racial division, which, I thought a few years ago that racism was dead in America until we rekindled the flames and started putting people against each other. Now you're putting against people, kind of pitting people against you're bigoted if you are not gay. And it's been to that extreme. If you're not gay, if you're not part of the LGBT community, you must hate them, right? If you don't agree with their lifestyle, it's not enough. If you don't participate, now you're a bigot. So I mean, this is all meant to divide humans against humans, people against people, and that's where it comes from a core of evil, from the pit of hell, in a spiritual attack on our culture, on freedom, on this country. And then there's people around the world, and whatever power players there are, and however they have influence into America, they're trying to divide our country, and they have been since World War II.
It's crazy you say it like that, talking about infiltration. I was reading the book Stalin's War a couple weeks ago now. I interviewed Sean McMeekin for our show, and he's a professor. He's written a lot on Russian history and wrote a book recently called Stalin's War, and he talks about the infiltration of communism pushed by Stalin in the early part of the 20th century, really through the middle of the 20th century, and just how casual it was, how slow it was, but how prevalent it was. And that infiltration, his goal was to really cause so much chaos in Western countries and capitalistic countries that the Soviet Union could do what they wanted to do, kind of a shell game. And hearing that and reading that, man, you're exactly right. It's an infiltration of our culture. And I think in a larger sense, and Christian people need to understand this, it's not just about dividing people. It's about undermining the very image of God on this earth. I mean, if we go back to the book of Genesis, we were created in the image of God. We were created with the order that God intended, and part of that is male and female. Marriage is an institution, the first institution given to us by God. That was male and female. We have a likeness or a reflection of God in us, and if we can say that gender is not something that's given to us as part of creation, if we can change what God intended, then really what we're doing is we're undermining, the word would be perverting, what God intended. And I think, Satan's goal has always been to overthrow and pervert what God intended for good. These institutions, what are the institutions given to us? We know that the institutions given to us by God are the family. The institutions given to us by God are the church. And the other institution given to us by God is government. Those were the three institutions given to us by God. And when we look at, Pride Month, when we look at this push to normalize these gender issues and these gender ideologies, and particularly the transgender ideology, what we see is an overt, deliberate attack on those three institutions given to us by God. The family is absolutely being destroyed. The church, in many ways, is going along with it, being destroyed of influence, authority, and power. Why can't the church speak into this? Well, because the church has bought into it, and it's been undermined and perverted. And then certainly government. I even saw yesterday, and I'm sure you saw this as well, but Governor Youngkin, is it Youngkin in Virginia, who ran as a strong conservative, ran as a strong Christian, ran on a pro-family platform, has completely gotten on board with Pride Month, holding Pride events at the governor's mansion in Virginia, absolutely 100% giving his stamp of approval for all that this represents. And when that's the case from people that are supposed to hold the line, then the institutions have really been destroyed. And what a sad place we find ourselves in today. Unless something will change, unless something changes, it's destroying who we are as people, as Christians, certainly as Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody is going to speak up for this, it needs to be people of faith, people of the faith community leaders. Yeah. And often, community leaders are from the church and pastors. Yeah. But unfortunately, you're right. I've seen so many pastors and church leaders cower to this. They're afraid of repercussions. They're afraid of being canceled. They're afraid to talk on a show like this, openly and honestly about the way they feel. And I believe that probably 95% of Americans would agree with 100% of what we've talked about in the show. Yeah. They don't hate. They don't discriminate. They just want equality, and they don't want other people's beliefs being forced on them. Yeah. And they don't want to be bullied into something that they don't believe themselves. Yeah. And they don't want our children to be harmed in the process. They don't want to be divided as a nation and people. Right. And I believe 95% of Americans would agree with everything we're talking about right now. Yeah. But unfortunately, the majority of those 95%, probably 95% of those 95%, are scared to talk about it. And it really, honestly, the only word I could use, it really hurts me. Yeah. When I see pastors, every church in America right now should be dedicating one of the Sundays this month to talk about Pride Month in their community. They should be talking about it. They don't have to give their personal opinion about it, but it should be talked about from the pulpit. But they're scared to. And we have, and from being a Christian, it shames me to say this, we have many cowards that have pulpits in the churches in America right now.
As you know, our friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Now Mike has done it again by introducing his My Slippers. For a limited time, you will save $90 on a pair of My Slippers. This blowout sale of the year won't last, so order now. Mike has taken 2 years to develop the My Slippers, and they are designed to wear both indoor and out all day long. Made with MyPillow foam and impact gel to help prevent fatigue, they are also made with quality leather suede. Call 1-800-870-0283, use the promo code SitRep, or go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use promo code SitRep. This offer will not last long, so order now with promo code SitRep at mypillow.com. There are two pastors in New Jersey who I connected with recently, and they have a podcast. They had me on their podcast this week, and they live in New Jersey. And they said, one town over from us, there's a Baptist church. So these guys are pastors in their town. And they said, one town over from us, there's a Baptist church, and this coming weekend, they're holding pride events all day on Saturday at their church. They're doing a drag queen story hour at their church, and all of this is happening, under the guise of them being a church, which, my response was, well, they're not really a church, just, no one's told them that.
Yeah.
But they're not the only one. And if churches go along with this, if churches are not willing to stand up and say, hey, you can believe what you want to, we stand for justice, we stand for equality, we want people to have the right to, do what they believe they should do. But God has a different opinion about what this looks like, then we're never going to get this back. And I'm a little bit scared that that's where we are.
Look, people are scared to say their opinion. I'm a messed up person. I have been messed up. There's a lot of things I do wrong in my life. There's a lot of sin in my life. I do my best to live my life now in accordance with biblical principles and do my best to try to make wise decisions based on biblical principles. However, I know that I'm a flawed person, and I know that my sin is no worse. When we talk about the Bible saying homosexuality is a sin, I know that my sin's no worse, no better than the sin of homosexuality. But what I believe is as a Christian, what I believe is when you have a willful lifestyle of where you can continue to choose to sin, that's the difference here. And we could argue if people were born this way, and like you said, 98% of boys and 88% of girls who deal with gender dysphoria change their mind after puberty. You could talk about if people were born this way or not. Maybe people are born with a propensity to sin a certain way. I believe I was born with a propensity to sin sexually. I believe I was born with a propensity to sin out of anger. These are things that my father suffered with and my grandfather suffered with. And so I was born with a propensity to do those things. But just because I was born with the propensity to do those things doesn't give me a green light to do them.
Sure.
It doesn't give me a right to do them.
Yeah.
I'm not entitled to behave a certain way because I feel that way. And there'll be consequences in my life for me acting out on those things and to live a lifestyle where I was just like, hey, this is how I feel. This is who I am. So I'm just going to live. I'm going to be as angry as I want to. I'm going to sleep with as many women as I want to because I was born with this propensity inside of me. Right. I mean, my life would be a train wreck because of those decisions.
Right.
And so this is where I am. I don't, again, we've got gay people listening. I don't hate you. I don't even judge you. I just personally think that the lifestyle choices you're making are harmful to you and harmful to the world around you. And as someone that cares about other people, I'm not afraid to speak that out.
Yeah.
You may not believe what I believe, and you're right as an American and as a human, because God didn't make you a robot. He gave you a choice to choose not to do that or not. And so I'm never going to judge someone about that, but I'll always be honest about it from my beliefs.
Well, I mean, the premise of the Bible is that we are born in sin, right? And there's so many places we could go to that, but as Christians, if we believe the Bible, we would say that Jesus is the Son of God, that he had to come because we're sinful, and that sin has a penalty. That penalty is eternal separation from God, and Jesus came to pay the price for that sin. So we're all born in sin. So the idea that we're born this way, well, we're all born sinners. I mean, that's all of us. And what that required was that God, in the flesh, Jesus, die in our place. And he calls us to new life. He calls us to wholeness, and he calls us to walk differently. And so I agree with you. I mean, I think the idea that, well, I'm born this way. Well, yeah, we're all born messed up. Every single one of us. Every single one of us. And, using that as a reason. It's funny, in our program, we talk about trauma all the time. And I think one of my favorite phrases is there's never an excuse to behave poorly, right? Like there's never an excuse to behave. I mean, you can have a reason, and there can be a real reason, but that's not an excuse to behave poorly, and certainly not against God and his plan for you. But as you mentioned, even if someone rejects what we believe as Christians, that does not mean you have the right, because you reject what we believe, to force your ideology, particularly on children. And believe what you want to, live how you want to, but you don't get to force that on other people and then penalize them if they disagree with you. Have we gotten that wrong in the past? Of course. Will we get it wrong again? Probably. But that doesn't change the fact that we all have the right as Americans to believe what we want to live that way according to our conscience, and to leave other people alone. And separating people into segments and separating people in a place where we would celebrate one group of people over another is absolutely ridiculous and is so divisive and insidious. And we have to get back to a place where an American's an American and we can work together and move together.
Yep. And we have to stop indoctrinating our children. We have to stop indoctrinating our children. It's something. And I applaud, while we're on there, I applaud Governor DeSantis over in Florida. I mean, he said boldly, like, he's going to push for legislation to make it a felony if you bring a child into a strip club and in front of transgender dancers, and try to, then those parents will be charged for a crime, and they should be. It's child abuse to bring
it's child abuse.
Your
Yes.
toddler child and have them stuffing money into a man's underwear. Is child abuse.
Yeah, or the other way around, right? Because I think that was happening as well. I saw.
Well, there was a man and dressed like a girl. Anyway, man, woman.
Taking them in there, right? Yeah, we used to just
a neon sign in back. If you read with the neon sign in the back, it said,
yeah,
you could go and look up what the neon sign said.
Well,
children had no place.
It used to be accepted that the one kind of untouchable area was sexuality as it relates to kids. The one thing we protect kids from, the only thing we protect kids from, universally is sexual content and sexual information and sexual situations. And it's so crazy. I saw somebody the other day. It was a meme, I guess. It said something like, Governor DeSantis is even fixing Texas's problems now, or something like that. But
yeah, man, he's made some shown some great leadership.
Yeah, he sure has.
And I think every governor across the nation could learn something from him.
And if your job as an executive is to protect the people that live in your state, then you should take this very, very seriously, because even those little kids need to be protected, and we need to make sure that that's happening. But a big issue, of course, and it's so important. But at the bottom line, or at the end of the day, we've got to stop as a nation elevating one segment of society over another. It's not helpful. It's not unifying, and it causes so many problems and division that I don't know. Frankly, I'm not sure we'll ever recover from. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Do you know of any schools that are as a school embracing Pride Month?
Well, I mean, most schools are out of school now, so maybe that was the design. I don't know, but I wouldn't surprise me, certainly, here in California, if that was the case. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know colleges are, but the concern would be elementary school level.
Well, and that was the issue in Florida with Disney and Governor DeSantis in the first place, was schools promoting that agenda.
Yeah, up to third grade, teaching.
Yeah.
Well, I think the bill is don't say gay, right? There's no reason to say the word gay or introduce.
But that wasn't even in the bill. I mean, it didn't say that. It said that for kindergarten through third grade, there should be no conversations between teachers and children dealing with the subject of sex, heterosexual or otherwise. And so even the "don't say gay" moniker is propaganda. That it wasn't in the bill. It was just, hey, we need to protect our very small children from having these conversations with children or with teachers. So
particularly, you have to realize most of these teachers, by the way, that are teaching these kindergarten through third grade, and no insult to them, because I think teachers are one of the great staples of our country, but most of them are like going to be between 22 and 25 years old. And so I don't want a 22 to 25-year-old teaching my kid about sex, my first grader about sex. I want him teaching him his ABCs.
Yeah. How
to do 2 + 2 + 2 or basic multiplication. But they don't have any business talking about sex.
Well, I think regardless of age, if you're an adult and you feel like you need to talk to very small children about, perversions of sex, then there's something wrong with you. And so I think we should acknowledge that as well, that these aren't well-adjusted, normal adults who are having these conversations. These are people who have a very clear agenda, and the agenda is to, indoctrinate our kids. But but as you mentioned, and I think this is it, we need to stand up and let our voices be heard, and at least encourage other people to know that you may see it everywhere, but this is not what normal people think. And we need to be willing to stand up and at least make our voice heard. I mean, for crying out loud. We both served in the military. We both, we just celebrated Memorial Day. We both lost people who gave their lives for the freedoms that we have to stand up and speak our mind. And we need to do it, or it's a wasted right. Very good. I hope that's a help. Again, this is something that people at least need to think through and spend some time breaking down for themselves. Think for yourself. This is like my theme right now, is just think for yourself. Don't let other people tell you how to think. And you can come to the right conclusions if you will. Let us know what you think on this. You can find our channel over on YouTube. Search for The Situation Report. You'll find our channel there. That's a good place for you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then you can leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about this. We'd love to see that or receive that from you, unless you hate us, in which case we'll still read it, but we won't love it. So we'll still read it, though. You have a right to leave whatever comment you want, and we'll get that from you. Make sure that you're also subscribed to your favorite podcast platform. That would be awesome as well. Appreciate you joining us, and we will talk to you next time. Many of our veterans feel they need to fight their battles alone. This self-isolation has led to the staggering statistic of more than 20 veterans taking their lives every day. The mission of Mighty Oaks is to eradicate the veteran suicide epidemic and help our warriors change their legacies. We've been able to help over 4,000 veterans and first responders by equipping them with the tools they need to live the lives they were created to live. Our faith-based, peer-to-peer approach has one of the highest success rates of any program available today, offering hope and understanding to those who need it most. By aligning their lives to biblical principles, these men and women are able to lead their families, their communities, and our nation. It's your generosity that can make a difference in the lives of the men and women who have fought for our country and our freedoms. Now that they're home, don't let them fight alone. Learn more at mightyoaksprograms.org.